Welcome to Self-Care from the Inside Out for Moms. I'm your host, Carrie McFarland, a certified life coach and founder of Moms Love Coaching. I help moms put themselves first to stop burnout. If you're a mom who is exhausted from carrying the load of getting it all done, then you are officially invited to join the conversation every week. It's the perfect time to take a break, grab your coffee, and focus on the most important person in your life, you. Welcome everybody to Moms Love Coaching, self-care for moms to stop overwhelm and burnout and reclaim your life. Welcome back. Another week. Another week has passed.
Yes.
It's getting to be the end of summer. I'm a little sad.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it's the end of summer. My daughter goes back to, I was going to say she goes back to work. She goes back to school on the 27th. And that's kind of late for, depending on where you are in the country. Some kids are already back, but we go back the end of August.
My grandchildren in Utah started last week, the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And then tomorrow, my system starts our professional development week. So it's like, oh, goodness, here we go. Kids arrive a week from Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
That must be a shock to the system, right? Everything's quiet, and then all of a sudden, all the kids are back.
Yeah, and of course, the last handful of years, well, probably since COVID, starting school, we have tried to be more mindful, starting school in a way that feels calm and helps people really feel like they're mentally ready for it, because we've just noticed so much staff burnout by the end of September. I'm hoping that it's a good, slow start. That's what I'm like, go slow to go fast. It's my mantra.
I like it. I like that mantra. I've just been thinking about, I don't know about you, but when the summer starts, you have all these things in your head and you're like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And we're going to do this and we're going to go here and we're going to go there. And all these wonderful summer activities that you have in your head. I feel like it's sort of ingrained into that all the good stuff happens in the summer and you got to get it all in. And if you don't get it all in, then you got to wait till next year. Right.
Especially in location where you have 4 seasons. And if you're not really fond of the winter season, you have even more pressure on yourself to enjoy the summer season. That's my experience. Like, I never met a Vermonter who didn't feel guilty about spending a sunny, warm day inside. That might have changed recently because it's so stinking hot up here. But
yeah, this was the first year that I didn't spend as much time outside as I usually do. I'm usually outside all the time. If I'm home, I'm outside. Mm-hmm. And this year, couldn't do it. Nope. Just couldn't do it. It was too hot and humid. And I know other parts of the country are much hotter than we are here. But for me, for this New England person, that was enough.
And we did have some really hot days. August has been glorious, though, I have to say.
Yeah, August hasn't been bad. And now that's the end of August, it's going to start to get even, cooler and cooler and cooler.
No, it won't. It'll come back.
Well, yes.
September, just enough to make a few weeks in the buildings, which in New England, folks, unless you have a newer school, our buildings aren't typically air conditioned. So we do the Vermont air conditioning where we open the doors and fan in the cold air at night. But now we kind of can't do that so much because of, security reasons. So I know we're going to get a week in September where it's unbearable.
Yeah, that always happens every year. And you're like, I'm like, it's fall. The air is cool and it's still sunny and it's still nice enough to go outside without a jacket, but it's not oppressive. And then you get a week and you're like,
come on. I planned a few Sundays off in September. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have some family coming. And so I'm looking forward to being able to skip away and do a few fun things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be nice. Well, and this kind of goes into what we're talking about today. Today, we are talking about deciding what you want to do.
What you want, Mom.
As a mom, as somebody whose time and attention is pulled in a million different directions at any given time. What do you want to do? Because a lot of the times what we want to do is whatever is going to keep the peace, right?
It's
Yeah.
like, it's not that you don't want to do certain things, but it's just not necessarily your first choice. It's somebody else's first choice. And it's just easier to do that than to do what you want to do. But today, that's what we're talking about. What do you want to do? And some of you listening to this might hear that question and think, I don't even know what I want to do. I haven't thought about what I want to do for so long. I don't even know,
Exactly. Oh, you mean I can think about what I want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're in a season with littles.
Right. Right. I mean, because what, you're thinking, somebody asks, well, what do you want to do? When you think about, well, okay, well, there's, this one doesn't like to be outside very much. And that one, they like this and my husband doesn't like this. So, well, I guess we could do, whatever, whatever you come up with. But that's not really what you want to do. So that's what the focus is today, what you want to do. And if you are thinking that thought, I don't even know what I want to do, how do you figure out what you want to do, right? And it's like anything else, I think it's a process. It's a process if you really are kind of out of touch with what you like, because, there's life before kids and there's life after kids. And when you're a new mom, your life before and your life after are very close together. And so you kind of know what you like and what you want to do. But as your kids get older and you have more kids maybe, and you get into it, your life before kids is now very far away from your life with kids. And it's very easy to lose sight of the things that you liked to do in the past. And also, some of the things that you like to do in the past, you might have no interest in anymore. So you're kind of your default go-tos, or what used to be your default go-tos of what it is that you like to do when you have free time might not apply anymore. So what do you do now? Figure out what you'd like to do when you do have free time. Because I don't know about you, but I would wait for a day I had either a block of time or the entire day to myself, either because maybe my husband took the kids to the grandparents, right? Or the kids were in school and he was at work, or he was at work and the kids had their naps. And so I had like a block of time, right? And how much I looked forward to that. I didn't always know when it was coming, but how much I looked forward to that. And then it came and I would default to cleaning the house.
Cleaning the house is what I was going to say. I would be doing the deep clean because suddenly I had to clean the house.
Yes, right. all of a sudden, now's the time, right? The deep clean, or cleaning out the playroom. Oh, now's a good time to get rid of that stuff. All those broken toys that they don't play with. But if they see me throwing it away, they're going to have a fit. So I better do that now while they're not here. Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what you fill your time up with. And then when you're done with that, it's like, well, I guess I'll just watch Netflix or something. And then they come home and you're like, I can't believe I wasted a whole day. I had a whole day to myself and I didn't do anything that I wanted to do.
So, thinking about that ahead of time, like that, and I think it's natural as you go through life that the things that interested you at some stage of your life may not interest, or they morph into something else. Like I was interested in photography a lot as a teenager and then as a young adult, but then I kind of got away from it and then had a real renaissance, if you will, when my kids were toddlers and older. So my first one is 12 years older than my next one. So, but the photography thing kind of took, like, as Jacob got older, and then when Sydney and Winnie came along, I suddenly was interested in photography again. And while I am still interested in it, it's not like you went so far as a few years ago. I've shot weddings and I've done portraits, but it's not a huge interest of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, you lose interest. I mean, my interest used to have, when I was a party animal, people. When I lived alone in my apartment before I was married and everything, my big thing was to cross stitch. I love to cross stitch. So I had all the threads and all the things, and I created all these cross stitch works, and I loved to do that. And the thought of doing that now doesn't interest me at all. And that was It was a long time ago
No,
because
I
probably
didn't tell you that, Carrie, that so why should you hang on to the very expensive cross stitch kit that you still love the design and think that you're going to come back to it and love it enough to do it? But by the time you're going to come back to it at 60 something, your eyesight isn't what it used to be, nor is your attention span. And I
yes.
have that beautiful kit sitting over there. I know where it is. I could go right now to the kit and pull it out.
Yeah. Oh, I know where my stuff is too. Although
Yep.
over the years, the kids have taken the thread for different reasons. Oh, well, I couldn't do it now either. There's no way I could see what I was doing. There's no way. I would have to do something else.
For folks that have been able to, that they had a craft that they really love, like my mother has always loved sewing. Of course, she didn't sew as much when she had 4 children as she did when her first 2 were younger. And now she sews. I mean, that's how she passes her time as an 89-year-old woman. I envy that she has been able to increase her skills and still love it like that, like to stick with something and really get quite expert at it. Like her skills at it are very well practiced.
And that's actually one of the ways that you can figure out what it is that you want to do. It's kind of like it's a little beacon. When you see somebody doing something or having something and you think to yourself, I wish I had that, or I wish I could do that. That's kind of an alert to you that maybe that's something you're interested in. But the only thing I will say about that is it's not always the exact same thing. So in your example, your mother sewing, you're envious that she can do that and you can't do it that way. And my question is, are you envious of the sewing, or are you envious of her having an expertise in something that she's really good at?
Yeah. Yes.
And there's a bit of a difference there, right?
Yeah. It's about her interest and the fact that she's maintained and nurtured her interest, that she's had that commitment.
She hasn't given up. I mean, so in some of the things that I have interest in now are not things that I had interest in before. Well, walking has been pretty consistent, I will say. The walking has been consistent my whole adult life. I always liked walking, and that hasn't changed. So that really is a go-to for me. And that has kind of morphed and changed over the years, the way that I do it, but I would always fit in walking somehow, either by myself, with the kids, with the dog, with my husband. I'll always fit that in. But there are other things that have kind of come and gone. One of the things is it's a company called Stampin' Up. A lot of people may have heard of it. It's the, stamps. It's literally not stamps for envelopes. I remember when I told my mother about it, she's like, you mean like collecting stamps? No, it's for stamps. Like you create things. What I used to do was create cards and coasters. And I had a membership with the woman who ran a small group at her house once a month, and me and my friend would go, and it was fun, right? Would buy some Stampin' Up stuff and then would use it and would create stuff. But what we did is we went to fairs to try to sell our Stampin' Up stuff. And, we were, for the time and what we were looking for, we were relatively successful in doing that. But then, things happen and that kind of dropped away. And, I don't really have the same kind of interest in it. So another interest I had was creating a little side hustle of getting people's groceries for them. And at the time, Peapod was around and couple other places were doing it, but my idea was that I would just be very local and focus on seniors and have high touch kind of thing. And I did that for a little while. It didn't really take off, but I tried it. But the theme of the things that I'm doing are trying to create something that I can keep going back to and being creative in a way that's sustainable, that fulfills me. And, it's not necessarily the Stampin' Up, although that was fun. It's not necessarily the grocery thing, or trying to do that was fun too. But for me, it's more about having something that will let me be creative in the way that I want to be creative at the time. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah. It's just an outlet, a way to express yourself that also gets your mind off the other things in your life. Like it's my little treat for myself. There's so many things that I like to do, as evidenced by the tremendous amount of supplies in my craft room. For somebody who doesn't actively craft, every now and then I'll come down and hoe it out, get rid of some more stuff like I haven't used in umpteen years, but the dream is still there. But I think that having that it was like, I do this so I'm a better mom. I do this thing, I have this outlet so that I'm a better mom. I'm a better person at my job because I have to have something that's more than just my job and my family. I have to have something that's for me. So it really was having those things that just helped me feel like I was doing something for me. Here's some advice from an old mom to a younger mom, perhaps. It's that I got into the thought, because I did the photographs and I wasn't into Stampin' Up, but I was into creative memories and into the scrapbooking. I felt like it was a useful pastime. Have you gotten into that little trick your brain likes to play? Like, this is useful. I am doing something with these photographs and I am creating these albums that everybody will love and that, I'm preserving their childhood.
Yeah.
You want to do something that's just for you, then do it.
Yeah.
Just, like, don't trick yourself into thinking the only reason that you can spend time doing something is because it has some other altruistic outcome, like a service kind of outcome. Because as moms, we can be very easily duped by ourselves often, that if it doesn't have something that serves the family or the children or your community or your school, that it's not worth your time. Well, baloney. If you want to take watercolor paints and just put them on a piece of paper to see what happens, and that serves nobody, then do it. That's what I say. Do it. You want to take a watercolor, that's the other thing, spending some money on yourself to develop your skills, because taking classes from other people, that's how you get better. And then you increase your enjoyment. Not because you're going to turn around and sell them or make cards for everybody, because that's the only way. See, I thought it all through. Like, the only way I can take this watercolor course is so that I can make cards, and then I can make all my cards can be homemade. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a little bit of that is sort of, the compare yourself to Instagram, Pinterest, like all the homemade things that people do. I mean, I did get sucked into that with like birthday parties and all the DIY stuff and, trying to do all that until I realized I can't do that. I saw well, let me go back. One thing that came to my mind when you were talking about doing the things that are kind of sneakily for your family, but you kind of convince yourself that you want to do them. I think the alert to that is if you have any kind of thought or sentence in your brain that says I should do it this way, is kind of the message to yourself that maybe this isn't the red flag, that maybe this isn't 100% for yourself. Yeah. Even though like I enjoyed Stampin' Up, I liked doing it, but yeah, there was an element of that I did think, well, this will give me craft supplies as well that they can use too. And, I can try to pay for it by selling stuff and things like that. I did enjoy it though. I will say I did enjoy it. I've always liked crafty things and creating things, but that's what I mean when I say, what is it that you're really after? Yeah. And sometimes it's not. Yeah, sometimes it's not the actual thing. So like if it's Stamping Up or cross stitching or creating content, things like that, all of that has one theme through it, and that is being creative. And I want to be creative, and I want to be creative for myself, because as soon as you start to do that for other people, it takes away from it somehow, because if other people don't approve, or if you put your things on Instagram and people don't like it, like literally hit the like button. True. And or people don't buy your thing, right? So then you're attaching its worthiness to that instead of attaching its worthiness to, it's just something that you want to do, it's just something that you enjoy. And if people like it and encourage you to do it, that's a bonus. That's good. It can feel good. It's a bonus, but it's not necessary for you to do something that you want to do. And then I had started saying something else and now I forget what it was.
Well, you were talked about Instagram. So I was looking up when Instagram and Pinterest first came out. Pinterest came out in January of 2010 and Instagram came out in October of 2010. And I'm thinking, like, as soon as those tools came out, what happened with my interest? And I was very active in the scrapbooking community. I think for me, though, it's always about learning some new method. Like, it's the learning piece that I became a digital scrapbooker because I wanted to learn how to use Lightroom and Photoshop. And that's what it really sparked my interest. But it's interesting that I don't know what happened to. Maybe there were different goals in my career as my kids got older. So my youngest was 6 in 2010.
My youngest was 1 in 2010.
Right. So you grew up with even more of that. Facebook's been out since 2004. So there was still a fair amount of compare and despair. I think that I'm hoping that folks are taking away from this episode that message that do what you want, find what lights you up, and do that for you. And if you want to be if you just want to you want to spend your free time reading, who benefits from that? You get to be entertained.
Yes. And actually, you saying that just reminded me of what I was going to say, because the reading part, my mother was an avid reader and she would, on vacation, sit in her chair and read a book and you didn't bother her. That was, as soon as we got there, she'd set up the cabin and she'd do all the things and make sure everything was settled. And then for the rest of the week, she would get up and go in her chair and read a book. And that was it.
That was her thing. And she probably did. How can some women be so committed to their pastime? I admire that.
She still does it. And she doesn't like Kindle. We got her a Kindle. So she didn't have to have 5 million books in her house. And she doesn't like it. My kids are the same way. They didn't like reading books on the Kindle. But one of the things that I had read in some of the research I was doing for another topic, it talked about kind of moms comparing themselves to the way that moms used to be. It used to seem like moms kind of had it together. Moms were able to get everything done and not have kind of the same angst and overwhelm and anxiety that moms today have. And what the article said, and as soon as they said that, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense, is our moms didn't try to do everything.
Yeah.
They didn't try to do everything. They did one thing and then kicked you out of the house, basically, and said, don't come back till dinner time.
Right.
They weren't trying to do everything. They weren't trying to make sure the kids weren't bored.
Right.
You're bored? Okay. Why don't you go mow the lawn or clean the floor or go clean your room, right? You couldn't tell your parents that you were bored and expect them to drop everything they're doing and come up with some incredible Pinterest craft that you could do at any given time. We were left to fend for ourselves. So we kind of have, and a lot of it is self-imposed, at least for 100%, but they didn't have that worry all the time, right? And so we have kind of filled up our brains with, how do we make sure that our kids are never bored? How do we make sure that our kids are getting the right extracurricular activities? How do we make sure that they're always entertained? And it fills up our brain with everybody else's needs and doesn't leave enough room to think about what we want. One of the ways to kind of figure that out is, if you are feeling that you never do, because you might also be listening to this and thinking, well, I do things that I like to do, right? But if you are, find yourself comparing yourself to a lot of other people and thinking, oh, I wish I had that, or I wish I did that, or I wish insert here, right? If you're feeling disappointed because the people that you're looking at are doing things that you feel like you should be doing. You have certain expectations of the way that your life should be, and you're feeling kind of disappointed, or you're just feeling kind of like hopeless, like you're just kind of given up on trying to do the things that you want to do because it's just easier to go along and just not worry about it. And you might have the thought, well, when they're older, I will be able to do this, or at this time, I'll be able to do this. Like it's always in the future. So you just kind of give up now, and you just are kind of like hopeless about trying to fit anything in, feeling resentful, like, oh, well, my husband gets to do this, or my partner gets to do this. Why don't I ever get to do what I want to do? It's things like that.
I could
Yeah.
see my husband had a very different thought about that, about what he was entitled to do. And that's not quite the right word. I mean, in many ways, it was like, we would have talks about this and arguments as well, but about the time that he would spend away from home doing his own thing, and how he's like, it's not that I'm not feeling guilty when I'm out there, so he likes to hunt. So if he was out hunting, he's like, I do feel guilty, but I also know that it's good for me to do that. Like, so it was balancing that time away from the family, because sometimes it's not just filling your free time with something. It's what am I going to do that I'm going to take time away from my family to do, because it's a priority for me. It fills me up. It helps me, again, be a better parent. One of the things I loved about the scrapbooking, there was a few years there where I had a friend locally that organized and put on scrapbooking retreat weekends. So it was wonderful. Like we'd go and we'd pack up all our stuff, and we would set it all up on tables. We'd sleep in the bunkhouses, and the food would be fantastic, and there'd be loads of chocolate and lots of women. I don't know how much scrapbooking really got done, but we talked about scrapbooking. We talked about our lives, and it was just really about the camaraderie. And
I was just going to say, in that situation, it seems like it's the connection that you're looking for.
It's so important to me to feel that and to have that as part of my life. And I know there are, clearly there were other women, we'd have 30, 40 people at it.
One of the things that came to my mind when you were talking about your husband going hunting, it's not that he didn't feel guilty, but he knew that it was important for him. I feel like that's also conditioning as well, because it wasn't like he did it with no regard for the family, and he wasn't just saying, well, I'm doing this too bad. He was feeling kind of guilty about it, but the fact that he put his own needs over what maybe he thought the family needed, because he was feeling guilty about something, but he knew that his own needs were more important in that instance, because it made him maybe a better father, a better husband, because he was still being true to what he wanted to do. Women don't feel that same freedom. Moms don't feel that same freedom to be able to do that. It's more accepted for and I will speak to heterosexual couples, because I think it is a man-woman thing, is more accepted for the man to be going out and doing what he wants to do, even if it's away from the family, than the mom. I mean, if you think about, and I know we're in 2024, but a lot of these things are carryovers from forever. And if you think about, let's just say the 60s, right? The dad would go do stuff, or stay very late at work, and then go out with the people at work, and, maybe go for a drive on the weekends, right? And the mom was home. And I think that, and I know that's a generalization, but I think that society accepts that the man is away from the family for whatever reason. Maybe it started with hunting. The man went out and hunted. Women stayed back, and they took care of the kids, and they did the gathering near the village. It's more accepted for the man to go out and do something than it is for the mom. And that in 2024 is still the case. And I think that's why we have such a hard time really tapping in to the things that we want to do. So in his case, like, going back again to what it is he was really looking for, I know that hunting was the thing that he did, but what he was really looking for was probably some alone time, some quiet time. There's a lot of downtime in that instance. And so it's a way to reset and kind of reconnect with yourself. And so that's what he was looking for more so than the hunting. It's just that the hunting gave him the ability to do that. So that's what I'm saying when I say, think about what it is that you want to do. When you see other people doing things and you're feeling envious of that, what are the things that you're feeling envious about? Is it the thing that they're doing, or what feeling is that bringing up for you other than envy? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Because it could be, you're just looking for connection. You're looking for an outlet to be creative. Maybe you want to feel good in your body. So you want to go running or walking or go to the gym. So look deeper than the actual activity, because it is more than that. It is what you want to do is more than just the thing that you're doing.
I would say that in our life coach training, that people do things because of the way they think it's going to make them feel.
Yes.
So it really is going back to that very fundamental law, if you will, like, how do I want to feel? And then pick the thing that's going to help you feel that way.
Right. And if you think that you can't do that thing because there's obstacles in the way, then think about how you could remove or reduce those obstacles so you can at least entertain the thought that you could be able to do those things that you want to do and create that feeling that you want to create.
That's good.
Right? I think that's what we have this week.
I think that is.
All right. Until next time, until next week. Have a great week, everybody. We will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. This makes it easier for everyone to find us and helps us spread our message about self-care from the inside out. Have a wonderful week, and remember, making yourself the priority is the highest form of self-care.